For some time past, they have published upon indirect taxes very strange ideas. They have professed the doctrine that these taxes could not be more conveniently placed than upon the commodities that were very necessary for the general consumption. On the other hand, they have repulsed as vandal and revolutionary the project of taxing the enjoyments of idleness and affluence. They've proposed a tax upon corn, and they proclaimed the inviolability of luxury. They would not have dared to propagate these ideas without some circumspection under any monarchy in the time even of their greatest corruption, and have been propagated beneath a republican government, the natural promoter of all opinions favorable to the welfare of the greatest number. The tax which we propose to you, continued the reporter of your commissions, has not, like the tax upon salt, the fault of being impolitic, iniquitous, and without profit. It will not strike the indigent like the rich. It will not recall 1,000 bitter remembrances to 1,000 presentiments that are not all without reason. It will not make the fortune of a few greedy speculators who often convert into gold the tears of the indigent. It will not occasion either revolt or inquisition, nor new establishments of a ruinous exchequer and of a bureaucratic aristocracy which seems to threaten to overwhelm the entire republic. You hear, representatives of the people? Your commission of the finances, and those of the direct and indirect contributions in proposing to you on the 24th of Vendemiaire a tax to fill up the deficit, announces to you that this tax has not laid down upon the salt the fault of being impolitic, inquisitorial, and without profit, and the 26 niveaux. Those same commissions, notwithstanding the tax upon the windows that we have adopted, brings the deficit to the same sum as before that tax, and you propose to fill it, the same tax which they condemn? I pause here. There are ideas that to be seized need only to be announced. The 26th of niveaux, you have heard the report of the citizen Mal, who announced to you again a deficiency of 50 millions. Since upon the 24th of Vendemiaire it was only 55 millions, when even the tax upon the windows should be reckoned at 16 millions. It follows then, at the most moderate calculation, that the deficiency is not so great as the reporter tells us. To justify his assertion, he informs us that several of the taxes that were decreed did not render the sum at which the ministers themselves had valued them. I cannot suppose that the deputies of the people in the matter of taxes would diminish the valuation of the agents of the executive power. We have also examined if the demand of 600 millions was not exaggerated. By several reports have we not been convinced that the account of the ministers required some deductions. However, if notwithstanding that conviction we had accorded the entire sum, why diminish each day the supposed produce of taxes decreed, and contradict by vague assertions those solemn and public valuations? I place before you upon this subject a passage of the report of the citizen Distrem, in the name of the same commissions, of which the citizen Mao is today the organ, as it is essential to fix the council upon the question of the expenses for the year 7, and consequently upon the necessity of establishing a sum of taxes, of which the receipt will cover the expenses, and that it is useful, I may even say necessary, that the French people know that if we carry the receipts to a very high sum, it is because the expenses that they must cover are just and indispensable. It is then a duty of your commissions to say to that tribune that in completing by 55 millions of new taxes the 600 millions decreed for the ordinary service of the year 7, you assure that service, even if some of the indirect taxes do not render the entire sum at which the produce is valued, whether it is in the description joined to the message to the directory of the first ambassador, or whether it is in the report of our colleague Villiers of the 22nd of last Thermidor. After that positive declaration of your commissions, after the comparison of the two reports made in Vendemiaire and Niveaux, it appears to me to be very certain that the actual deficit can be 50 millions. Let us now examine the means offered by the citizen Mao. He announces to us that to equalize the receipts to the expenses, your commission know only three means. First, reduction of the expenses by the economies and reforms in all the offices that will admit of it. Second, augmentation in the collecting of the duties already established. Third, creation of one or several branches of revenue. He has presented you successfully a sketch of the reforms and the ameliorations, and I think it useless to follow him in all his calculations. It is sufficient to recall to you what he says on page 16. I have shown that we might hope to cover the deficit by economy and ameliorations in the collecting of duties already established, and I have added that it was indispensable to seek the surplus in the establishment of some new branches of the revenue. Thus, representatives of the people, your commissions assure you that the economies and the ameliorations will produce you a sum of 25 millions. I believe that these reforms will go much further. It is sufficient to cast the eye upon the state of the expenses of the war and the marine. We have made funds for the armies of the land and sea far above the effective number of men. By calculating that overplus, we find that the economies must exceed 25 millions, and perhaps a new tax will not be necessary. If there remain, however, a little deficiency, I should vote for supplying it by a tax upon certain objects of luxury. But as long as that deficiency shall not be demonstrated to me more clearly, I shall not consent to fresh taxes. I cannot see how a vague and contradictory word is sufficient for the decree of 25 millions of taxes.